Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. I'm so glad you could join me this afternoon. I have a card for you today that is representative of spring. It looks like lilacs, and so I made it a birthday card, but I also have a sober message for everyone today. This is an extraordinary time that we are going through right now, and I'm so grateful that many of us have the opportunity to keep ourselves entertained with stamping. Lord knows we have plenty of materials and in our stashes to sit and keep ourselves occupied. Online classes may be the way we have to go for a while, but I just want to wish everybody well and good health, and encourage all of you to stay as close to home as possible. We all have a responsibility to try and keep everybody safe. And again, we are extraordinarily lucky to have this hobby as a distraction in this difficult time. And the good news is you can order stuff online and have it delivered to your home. You can put items in your mailbox and have somebody pick it up. You can send cards of encouragement to people that you might not get the chance to interact with. I think it's a time when we can use this craft to do good, to send well wishes, messages, get well messages, coping kinds of messages, and celebrate what is right with the world right now. So I just wanted to convey that little message to you ahead of time, and then I think we should just get to our card today. Thanks. Okay, here is my card today, and I used this beautiful stamp set called Beautiful Friendships, and it has this stamp in it, which is the one I used here. Now this one I think is a little overwhelming. I'm going to cut this back by moving this flower down and this flower over a bit and maybe further down the page so that it doesn't overwhelm the front of the page. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. And so I'm using this stamp, both sets of leaves. I'm using this sprig, which I used here, like a bud of this flower, and that is exactly how lilacs grow. And then the sentiment, wishing you a happy birthday, I took from the Band Together stamp set because I wanted something that was, this has a great birthday sentiment. Birthdays are the best days, but I wanted something, again, that wasn't overwhelming. So I liked this one. It was understated, wishing you a happy birthday, right here from the Band Together, and that's what I used on my card. The inside of my card has some stamping of the flower and a little bit of the green and to bring the outside of the card to the inside. So this is what you need to make this card. I used a gorgeous Grape Base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Then for the front of the card, I have a piece of Whisper White that is 5 inches by 3 3/4. Then I have for the inside a piece of Old Olive. The Old Olive on this one is 4 by 5 1/4. This Old Olive is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 for the inside, and this piece is 4 by 5 1/4. Then I have 2 little strips here for my sentiment, and this first piece is 2 5/8 by 7/8 of an inch, and this piece is 3/4 of an inch by 2 1/2 inches for my sentiment. Then we need a bit of scrap. I did stamp this card and then Fussy cut it out to raise it on the card. And then these two pieces, these two leaves and this little sprig need to be stamped and cut out as well. And so that's what we need. So the other thing that I've done is I stamped out on a piece of just copy paper the flower, and Fussy cut around it so that I would have a mask. I put a little bit of tape on the back here so that I could use it to mask and do my stamping. So let's see here. I think we can start on this piece of paper, and I'm going to grab a big piece of scratch paper. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is not to work on this panel. I've decided the best thing to do is go ahead and stamp this piece, and I'm using Gorgeous Grape ink and I'm using Old Olive ink. So there's two ink colors that I'm using here. This is one of those distinctive stamps. So it has the light and the dark built into the face of the stamp. So we can just, let's see, I need my pad here to get the right surface for doing this stamping. And I'm going to stamp this flower right here to one end. And then I'm going to stamp the little spray or bud stamp right down here. Then I'm going to stamp my leaf stamp in the Old Olive right up here in the corner. And I'm going to cut each of those leaves out separately so I can decide exactly how I want to use them on my card. All right, the next thing we're going to do is stamp the smaller white piece of cardstock here, Whisper White. And so here we have the 5 by 3 3/4, and we're going to stamp. I'm going to use my mask here to indicate where my stamp is going, or where my piece is going to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in place just to give myself an idea. And I know I don't want it to go up as high, so I can just eyeball it and bring it down a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and ink that up and then stamp that a little bit lower on the card and going off the edge right about there. Then I've got the same thing with the one on the bottom. I know I want that to go inside, and I'm going to turn it a little bit so I get some of the darker color in there. Maybe I'll stamp it more like that. And I don't want it to go quite as far out this way, so I'm going to stamp that one right about in here. Okay, then we also need to stamp the inside of the card for our inside decoration, and we want a little bit of this stamp. Now that looks awfully broad to me, so I'm going to use the narrower side of the stamp to do my stamping for the interior, and just catch this down in the corner so I get some of the dark and some of the light points there, and I think that's going to look a lot better. Not quite as large as this one, but I think it gives us the same look without the heavy-handedness. So I really only needed this little scrap. Now I'll speed up the video while I fussy cut these out. I have one fussy cut out of this one, so I'm going to cut out my leaf and my larger flower. I've decided that this is going to be like lilacs instead of hydrangea or other kinds of flowers. We're so close to spring and real lilacs coming into bloom that this one just makes me feel like spring is here. So I'll quiet the video and speed this up. It won't take very long. Okay, as you can see, I went back and stamped a few extra leaves. I forgot the leaves that needed to go around this piece when I raised it on dimensional, so I went ahead and cut those out and fussy cut the items. So I have my leaves here, which I'm going to just tuck over in this corner so that they're all in the same place and I won't lose track of where they are. And I think we are ready to move on with putting our card together here. All right, so what we have is these two pieces. This piece that's going to go on the front of this card can just go straight down on the card. So I'll add my snail to this piece and go ahead and get this piece put down on my card with a similar border all the way around. There we go. Now this piece is going to go on here also without dimension because I'm just raising these other elements. So again, I'm going to add my snail and place this piece on the front of my card. So once again, with a similar border all the way around my card. All right, I think we are now at a place where I can close these up, and so I can't get my fingers in any more of it than I already have. Oh, the joys of stamping. Okay, so now we have this piece that is fussy cut out and ready to go on here, and I have my choice of leaves to add to the back of it. Let's see, if I put this piece down like this, I think that's going to look a lot better, that it's pulled back and down a little bit from the card so that it leaves more of an open feel over here. And I think based on that, I'm going to set my 3 leaves down on this side. So I'm going to add a little bit of snail to the back here and put those leaves on, so that will fit right in there. Then I'm going to add 2 leaves right up here, and I'm going to add 3 leaves right down here, and I think that will do it. So I'm going to put a little bit of snail on the back and put my 2 leaves there. So that is going to be like that. And then these leaves need to tuck out, I think right about there. Even though they're going to cover up some of the other flower, I think that's where they look the best. So that is where, oops, I put it up higher. Well, let's see, what do we think about that? I think I like it better down below. So down here better. Yep, I think that is what I want. So now what I'm going to do is add some dimensionals to my flower. Putting that flower in place right there on my card. Very pretty. Now then, we need to do our embossing. Well, actually, we can probably do a little bit more stamping and finish up the inside of the card. So I have my mask that I made, and I'm going to set it in place. And I've shown before, when you mask, you need to put it right up to where it goes on the edge and then pull it back about, oh, a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch. Because this is going to create, however small, a little ledge that will keep you from being able to stamp where you want it to look like it's coming right behind the flower or the piece underneath. So when I pull it back, what's going to happen is that stamping is going to then go, because of that ledge, looks like it's really coming from behind the flower. So on this side, same thing. I've got that set right there, and there are my leaves looking like they're coming right behind my flower there. So that piece is now ready. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this piece to this. It's going to have very slim margins on the inside of this card, and that's fine. Okay, so there is my inside, and then we can go ahead and put this piece on the inside of the card, and the inside will be complete. And again, this one is just going to have a very slim margin around the card. And there we go. Isn't that pretty? So there we go. Now on to the rest of this card. And okay, you're going to see me rescue this because I forgot to stamp my leaves on these before I put this piece on. So what I'm going to do is put my mask back in place. Let's see if I can figure out how this goes down. Goes like that, and I'm going to stamp my green leaves right here. There we go. And I'm going to stamp a couple of the leaves up here at the top. Let me get this situated. Okay, so I'm going to put those leaves in there, and then I'm going to move this to the side and put a couple of leaves coming out there. And there we've got it. Now, this one didn't stamp all that well, so I'm going to use my blender pen to extend that color through that spot. And I think that'll be just fine. Okay, there we go. So you be smarter than me and stamp your leaves before you put on your raised piece. I wonder how many times I do that. Oh well. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is add our sentiment. And I have my sentiment stamp, and we need some Versamark and an embossing buddy and a little piece of scratch paper. I'm going to just add some embossing buddy powder to my piece of gorgeous grape, and then I'm going to use my Versamark to get my birthday sentiment down here, hopefully nice and straight. My head is going to get in the, I'm going to move this way down close to me, and I'm going to try and center this on this piece. Hopefully that'll do it. And it's pretty good. It's so hard when you're filming because the best way to stamp, of course, is to have yourself right over the top, and that puts your big old fat head right in the camera. So let me add my white embossing powder to my birthday wish and tap it all off. There we go. I'll quiet the video while I heat set this message. All right, there's my happy birthday message, and it actually turns out to be pretty straight. So I think I can just go ahead and add some snail to the back of this. I want to make sure that's dry before I turn it over, and I don't want to smear it. And add a little bit of snail to the back and set these pieces together. And this one has a pretty slim border all the way around. There we go. All right, now this piece I also put up on dimensionals and then added it to my card. But before I add it, I want to see where I want to put this sentiment right here, and I'm butting it up against the green because I think if you go outside of it, it jars your eye because it's not in the same line. As long as it goes to the green, I think that's pretty good. And I think something like that. And actually, as I'm looking at it compared to this one, I kind of like those flat on the card rather than raised behind the sentiment. So I think I'm just going to use that and put them into place. It was right there, I think. And then put 2 leaves down and tuck them underneath my little spray. And then I think this message goes over the top, and I think it looks better. Isn't that interesting? I think it does look better if it's flat on the card versus raised with the sentiment. So I'm going to set that in place right there. I think that's straight. All right. So basically that is the card. I have a few green leaves left over, but If you followed me at all, I'm always after more product than I need, so I make sure I have enough to make the choices that I want. And then the inside is done. So the last and finishing touch that I put on this card was I used some of the Noble Peacock rhinestones because they've got this beautiful purple in it, and I think I like the way this card is set up better than this one. This went too high up this way and too far out this way, and it overwhelms the front of the card. This one looks a little tidier. And I like that this is laying down instead of being raised. Yep, I think I like this one altogether better. All right, so now I'm going to add some rhinestones. And on this one, we're going to try starting with a couple of larger ones. I'm going to put a couple of large ones right down here, and then we'll go to the next size down here, and just kind of moving across the card this way, I think actually sets this up the best. And now I'm going to some of the smaller ones and putting them in place with nothing else on this. And I have to say, from a composition standpoint, I like this one better than this one. You'll have to let me know. That's what happens often when I do a prototype. I put together the card sort of the way I have it in my brain, and sometimes it comes out just exactly the way I want to see it the first time, and I'm perfectly happy with it. And the second time, sometimes you just get smarter. And you can put things together a little differently. But that is the project for today. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. So my prize draw for the month of March is the Grace's Garden bundle, and if you've gone on Stampin' Up! To try and order the Grace's Garden bundle, you know it's not available now, but I have mine in hand, so I have it to give out as a prize at the end of the month. Now, let's see, all you have to do to put yourself in the drawing is to make an order of any size on my store, lbedinger.stampinup.net, or you can get to it through my blog, www.inkingenuity.com, and I'll have this card up on my blog in a couple of days. So thanks again for stopping by. I really appreciate your attention. And again, my initial message is stay well, be well, take care of yourselves, and stamp and have fun. Bye now.